Hi my friends, how are you doing? So today I thought that I could just go over some Spanish with you guys, do a little Spanish lesson. So I have a notebook here and a little pencil, and I think we're just gonna go over the alphabet in Spanish. So the alphabet itself, very similar as far as the letters, pretty much the same as the English alphabet. Of course, the pronunciations are what we'll be going over, but I'm also just gonna go over some example words that correspond to each letter of the alphabet, and that can be our little first lesson for Spanish today. It is raining outside a good bit. I don't know if the mic's gonna pick it up, but if you guys hear a lot of noise, that's probably what it is. Okay, so we're gonna get started, and I hope everyone's doing well. Sorry, I've been gone for a while. I've been very busy with school, but we're almost at the end. So, alrighty, so let's get started with the Spanish. So, the alphabet would be el alfabeto. So I'm gonna write that here. El alfabeto. The alphabet. So, el alfabeto, the alphabet. Alrighty, so we're gonna start just writing our basic letters. So we're gonna start with our vowels, okay? So first we have the letter A. The letter A in Spanish is pronounced A. A. So it's written the same way as in English, and it is pronounced A. Okay. So I guess if we were to write out a spelling of what it sounds like, it would be like that. A. A. So an example of a word that uses that letter would be abeja. Abeja. And abeja means bee. Abeja. Bee. Abeja. Bee. So A in Spanish is very different from in English, where we have different pronunciations of the vowel. In some context it could be A, it could be it could be A. It kind of just depends on the word. In Spanish, you're just gonna have that one way of pronouncing it, which is just A, abeja, abeja. Yep. So the next letter that we're gonna go over is going to be E, the letter E, which in Spanish is E. E. So this is our next vowel, E. And let me go ahead and write the example word, which is going to be the word for elephant. So, E. There's the capital and there's the lowercase. E. E. So the example is elefante. Elefante. Elephant. Elefante. Okay. Okay, and then the next vowel is going to be the letter I, which in Spanish is E. So the pronunciation of the letter I in Spanish is basically like if you were saying the letter E in English. E. E. So our example word for that is going to be isla. Oh my goodness, this pencil smudges. So isla, which is island. So isla, island, isla. Okay. And then our next vowel is going to be O, the letter O. So we have A, E, I, O. O, 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 O. And I guess the pronunciation is similar to if you were to write O-H-O. Similar to that, but you just don't do the little oo sound at the end. So just O, O. Like if you were to say O and you cut it short. So the example word for that is going to be oso, which means bear. So we've got O, oso, oso, bear, oso. Okay, and then our last vowel is going to be U, the letter U, which in Spanish is u. So imagine in English if you have the double O, like in food or something like that. So u. That would be the letter U in Spanish. So our example word for that is going to be uvas, which is grapes. So uvas, grapes. Good. So we have in total our 5 vowels. We've got A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. Okay. And again we have abeja, elefante, isla, oso, and uvas. Okay, so moving on to the rest of the alphabet. So those were our vowels. Now we're going to move on to our consonants. So we'll start with B. We'll just go in order. So the letter B in Spanish is be. And our example is going to be ballena, which is whale in Spanish. So be. Ballena, whale, be. Then after that we're going to have the letter C, and the letter C in Spanish is se. So our example for that is going to be calabaza. So the letter C actually is one of the few letters of the alphabet in Spanish that can have different sounds depending on where it is in the word. So technically, if you have the letter C at the beginning of a word or in front of, basically if it's in front of A, O, or U, it's going to sound like a k sound. So in the case of the sample word calabaza, it's going to have that k sound. Now if you were to have a word where the C is followed by an E or an I, it would have like an S sound almost. So an example of that would be So the word cerveza, oh, I spelled it wrong. Cerveza, which is beer. So the word cerveza, see, it's C-E and you pronounce it like se. And then when it's C-A, it's ca. So se, calabaza, pumpkin, cerveza, beer. So that one's one of the ones that sometimes trips people up. So then up next, technically in Spanish, some people consider CH as its own letter, so CH. So that would make the ch sound, ch. So that would be CH. And the pronunciation for that, of course, if you're just reading the letter CH, it's like if you were reading the letter C and then the letter H, CH. But it has that ch sound, same as in English. So an example for this would be Chile, which is literally a chili, like a chili pepper. So CH, Chile, okay. Then we've got the letter D, which in Spanish is de. So an example for this would be dedo, which is finger. So de for dedo, finger. Okay. Then we have the letter F. The letter F in Spanish is F. So an example word for that would be flor, which is flower. So we've got the letter F, flor, flower, F. Okay, and then we've got the letter G. G in Spanish is another one that technically speaking can have different pronunciations, so it can either be the g sound or a softer like h sound. So G in Spanish, the name of the letter would be he. I guess the best way to write that pronunciation would be like H-E-H, he, something like that. So G in Spanish, again, if you have the G in front of A, O, or U, you're gonna pronounce it like a g sound, g. So our example word here would be gato, which is the word for cat, gato. But if you have it in front of an E or an I, you're gonna have a h sound. So it would be like he or he. Now, there's different, so there's a way to go around it if you want to have a word that has the sound ge or gi, but you would have to put a U in between the two letters. So the letter G, for now, we'll just say that it's pronounced he, okay? The letter he, and our word is gato. Oh, sorry. Our word is gato, so he, gato. Gato is cat, gato, g. But again, if you have it in front of an E, it would be pronounced he, and if you have it in front of an I, it would be pronounced he, unless you have a U in between. So if you have ge or gi. So if you have it written out like this, it would be ge, and then this would be gi. Now, sometimes you'll see 2 dots over the U, and that means that you actually pronounce the U. So that's the exception there. But so this is an example. So the word guimo, which is the word for like a hamster, hamster or gerbil. It's one of those. So the word guimo, you see there's the 2 little dots over the U, so that means that you actually pronounce the U. So guimo. But if it didn't have the 2 dots over the U, then you would skip the U and you would pronounce the I, so it would be gimo. But the actual word there would be guimo, so it has the 2 dots. But for all intents and purposes, just for now, he is just gonna have the g sound. Okay, so there's the G. Then we have the letter H. So H, like I mentioned earlier with the CH thing, that would be ache, 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 ache. So our example here is yellow. So usually the H in Spanish doesn't actually have a sound. So in English, when we have the letter H, you usually have that like h sound, like hello. Hello has a h sound. In Spanish, you don't pronounce that H. So you would just start with whatever comes after it. So in the case of our word today, we have the word hielo, which is ice. So in that one, you don't pronounce the H. Another example that everyone is probably more familiar with is hola, which is hello. So like here, we have the letter H, ache, 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 ache. So again, you don't pronounce the H at the beginning of the word. So that would be hielo for ice, hielo. And then you have hola for hello, hola. But see, you start with the second letter for both of those. Then we've got the letter J. So the letter J in Spanish is jota, jota, jota. Jota, and our example here is going to be the word for giraffe, which is jirafa. I hope I'm spelling giraffe properly in English here. So jota, jota, jota. So this one is jirafa, jirafa, giraffe, jirafa, jota. So the letter J is going to be pronounced as a h sound. I think the only exception is whenever it's at the beginning of certain names. So kind of like in English, how you would see the name Jessica that starts with a J and you know it's pronounced like a J sound. In Spanish it would be the same, where sometimes if you see a name like that, you would know it's Jessica. But in all other occasions, the J sound is a h sound. So again, in the case of this word, we have the word for giraffe, jirafa, jirafa, J, jota. Then we have the letter K, which in Spanish is ka, ka, ka. So our example word is going to be koala, which literally is koala in English. So ka, 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 koala, 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 koala. Okay. K is a letter that you don't really see a whole lot, to be completely honest, but it's there. So then we have the letter L, which would be L, L, and our example word is going to be león, which is lion, So L, there's the uppercase, lowercase, L, león, lion, león. Then we have another common one in Spanish, which again, some people consider part of the alphabet, some people don't. I consider this one a part of the alphabet more than I consider the CH a part of the alphabet. So that would be the double L. So double L. And I like to call this one ella, because that kind of helps remember how it sounds. Some people would say literally double L, doble L. I say ella. So ella, because it does have that y sound. Sometimes you'll hear it like y, sometimes you'll hear it like j. Kind of depends on the pronunciation of like the country that the person's from. So the example for this one is going to be the Spanish word for key, which would be llave. So you see it has y, that's the sound. So ella, literally two L's side by side, ella, llave. Llave is key, llave. Another word with a double L is the word for cry, which would be llorar. Llorar is to cry. And that one's also with the ella, llorar. Llorar, to cry. Okay. Then we have the letter M, which would be pronounced M. And our example word for that is going to be the word for apple, which is manzana. So M, manzana, apple, M. Then we've got the letter N, which is N, and our word for that is going to be nube, which is the word for cloud. So N, nube, cloud, nube. So M is M, manzana, N is N, nube. Okay. And then we have another fun letter here. This is the letter ñ. So finally one that we don't really have in English. Ñ. And our example for this one is going to be, so this one I can't think of any words that start with the letter ñ. Maybe there are, but normally you'll see it in the middle of a word. So our example is going to be piña, which is pineapple. And you also have the example of boy or girl. So niño is boy, and that one has it in the middle. So ñ, it's written like an N with a little squiggly line over the top. Ñ. And so we have pineapple, piña, ña, piña, and boy, niño. So it's almost like an N and Y together, like a ñ, ñ, piña, niño. Okay. So that's ñ. Then we have P. The letter P in Spanish is pe. So we're gonna use one of the words for cake, which is pastel. So P is P, 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 pastel, pastel, cake, P, 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 pastel, P, P, P. Okay, and then we have the letter Q, which in Spanish is Q, Q. Cool. I guess, yeah, like COO would be the way that I would spell that if I were trying to put it in English. And so that one, you're normally gonna see followed by a U and then an E, or a U and an I. So I'm going to use the example of cheese in Spanish, which is queso. So here we're going to see that similar thing that I talked about earlier, where when you have the U followed by the E, you don't pronounce that U. So Q, the letter Q, in Spanish is also like a K sound, but you would have like here queso, Q-U-E, queso, cheese, queso. Okay. Then we have the letter R. R in Spanish is R. I'm trying to think of how to write that in English. R. So you do technically roll it. So the letter R would be, what's an example? We've got ratón, which is mouse. And you do sometimes see the double R, which is pretty common in Spanish. So an example of that would be in the word for car, which is carro. You have the two R's in that word. So R. So you've got ratón, mouse, and you've got carro, car. If you're from Puerto Rico, like my family, a lot of Puerto Ricans can't roll their R's very well, or choose not to. So a common thing in a lot of the Puerto Rican dialect is to do it kind of like a ch sound. So instead of carro with a double R, they'll say cajo. I say the double R, carro. But yeah, so R. Then we've got the letter S, which is ese. And our example word is the word for chair, which is silla. So here we have the S and we have that double L from earlier. So ese, silla, chair, silla. Then the letter T, which would be te. Our example word is tortuga, which is the word for turtle. Tortuga. So te, tortuga, turtle. Then we've got the letter V. So the letter V is one that some people pronounce a couple different ways. Some people pronounce it as uve, and some people pronounce it as ve. I usually say uve, which would be like this. Let me write it down, and let me write an example word. So I'll write vaca, which is cow. Another example could be the word uvas, which we already used for the letter U, but I think it still shows it pretty well. So V or uve, uve or ve, and the word is vaca, cow, vaca, or uvas, uvas, which is grapes. So v. Then we've got the letter W, which again has different pronunciations. So some people will say, honestly, it depends on so some people, you'll write it as a W. Some people write it kind of like a V shape, like a double V. So some people will say W, W. Some people will say W, double V. Some people say W, like a double V, W. So lots of different ways to pronounce it. I usually say W, which would be do, ble, ooh. I'm trying to write it out in like English. Now honestly, this one you're not gonna see a whole lot in Spanish though. But here's an example. So there's the W. I say W, because I write it like two U's, W. You can also say W, or you can also say V. I say W. So our sample word here is waffle, waffle. So not really used a whole lot, to be completely honest, but there you have that one. And then getting closer to the end, we've got the letter X, which we also don't really see a whole lot in Spanish. So this one in Spanish would be X. So X. And our example is going to be xilófono, which is xylophone. So X. So you kind of like X, xilófono, xylophone. So it does just have like a s sound, xilófono. Sometimes it'll have a h sound, but rarely does it have a x sound like it does in English. So an example would be, so for Mexico, the country, right? In English we say Mexico, you do the x sound. In Spanish, normally, instead of saying Mexico, you'd say Mexico. So you say like a h sound, Mexico. And then, you have your words like xylophone, xilófono. It's like almost like an S sound. So X, xilófono. Or Mexico. Okay. And then we've got the letter Y, which I pronounce as Y. Literally, if you were to translate that to English, it would be Greek I, Y. And our example is going to be yo-yo. So literally the same word. This is another one that you don't really see a whole lot in Spanish, but it does exist. So there's the Y, Y. So Y. So yo-yo. Doesn't have too much of a difference from how you pronounce it in Spanish versus English. And finally, we have the letter Z, which I pronounce as zeta. Zeta. Now, if you're from certain countries, like Spain, they have a more particular pronunciation of that letter, I should say. So we normally, like in Puerto Rico and a lot of other countries, you just read the letter Z as an S, same sound basically as an S, which is why we pronounce it like just Zeta. Now, if you're from Spain, they have more of like a th sound, almost like if it were a TH. So they would say theta, theta. Theta. But yeah, in most countries though, I would say that we just pronounce it as an S, so zeta. So our example here, and I'll pronounce it in both ways just so that you know it, but our example here is going to be the word for carrot. So zeta or theta, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Zeta. And our word is zanahoria, which is carrot. Zanahoria or zanahoria. Zanahoria, carrot. I say zanahoria, like an S. Alright, so that is the Spanish alphabet. It wasn't too bad. It's very similar to English, I would say, or at least as far as the way that everything's written, the way that a lot of it is pronounced, I think is similar enough, at least as far as like the actual sounds that the letters make, right? Like your consonants for the most part have similar sounds to English. I think in English it's more complicated personally because there's a lot more variation that you can have with it, versus in Spanish, for the most part, it's pretty concrete with, there's usually just one pronunciation and that's what you use every time. Same with the vowels in particular in Spanish, mostly just have the one pronunciation. So we'll just go back over everything real quick, just as a little refresher. So starting with the vowels, we've got A for A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. And those vowel sounds are going to basically stay like that no matter the word. A, E, I, O, U. The only times when you won't pronounce them will be in certain words, like where you have that rule where you have the U in front of the E and then you don't pronounce the U, or where you have the two dots in front of the U and you do pronounce the U. But the actual sound itself of the vowel is going to basically be pretty constant. So A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. Abeja, elefante, isla, oso, uvas. Okay, and then for our consonants, we've got B, C, CH, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, L, M, N, Ñ, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, so for the first batch of consonants again, let's just go over the words real quick. So B, ballena, C, K or S, depending on the word. So calabaza, or cerveza, C. CH, the ch sound, chile, ch. D, dedo, D. F, so flower, F. G, So again, you can have the g sound or literally h, h, h. So gato, gato is our word there. G, 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 g. Gato, he, gato. H, the H sound, silent. H, hielo or hola, hielo, hola, silent, silent, silent. J, J, jirafa, jirafa, J, that kind of sound. K, 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 k. Koala, koala, K, K. Then we've got L, 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 león, L, 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 león. Elle, y, 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 y. Llave, llorar. Y, 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 y. Llave, llorar. Okay. And our second batch. M, 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 manzana, manzana. M, N, 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 nube, nube. Ñ, 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 ñ. Piña, piña. Niño, niño, ñ, 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 ñ. P, 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 pastel, pastel. Q, 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 queso, queso, Q. R, 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 R. Ratón, ratón. Carro, carro. S, S, silla, silla. T, 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 t. Tortuga, tortuga. V or V, 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 v. Vaca, uvas, v, v, vaca. W or W or W, 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 waffle, waffle, w. X, X, xilófono, 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 or H, H, like Mexico, Mexico, or so X, xilófono. And then we've got Y, Y, again just a Y, 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 yo-yo, yo-yo, Y. And then Z or Theta, Z or Theta, just S or Th. So zanahoria, zanahoria or zanahoria, zanahoria. Z. Okay, so that is the Spanish alphabet. Nice and easy. Again, in Spanish it's el alfabeto. El alfabeto. I hope that you learned something and that you enjoyed. And let me know if you would like me to do any other Spanish videos. I can try to come up with some other little lessons, maybe some basic sentences, greetings, things like that. I'd be happy to do something like that if you guys are interested. I speak Spanish with my family, like at home and stuff, but I was never super formally educated in Spanish because I moved to the US when I was in 2nd grade. So I can read it and speak it very pretty fluently, but as far as like teaching grammar and things like that, I'm probably not the best. However, my mom is a Spanish teacher, so I'd be more than happy to ask her for tips, or maybe like, I don't know, take one of her little lesson plans and make a little video with that. I think that could be cool. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, let me know. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye bye.